For 8 years, Sarah and I built what I thought was our perfect life together. I was a successful software engineer while she taught elementary school, a career she claimed to love. We had our dream house in Seattle suburbs, with a view of Mount Rainier, that took our breath away every morning. Our 8th anniversary was approaching, and I had been planning the perfect surprise getaway for months. Then one night I borrowed her phone to check our calendar and noticed strange messages from someone named Jake. My stomach dropped as I read words no husband should ever see. Before I dive into how my perfect life shattered overnight, drop a comment telling me where you are watching from and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever trusted someone who did not deserve it. I met Sarah at an educational technology conference in downtown Seattle. I was there representing my company showcasing new learning software for classrooms. She approached my booth with genuine curiosity about how technology could help her students. Her passion for teaching immediately captivated me. There was something magnetic about her enthusiasm, the way her eyes lit up when talking about her third graders. We exchanged numbers under the professional pretense of discussing implementation at her school. But we both knew there was more happening between us. I called her the very next day, and we met for coffee that weekend. One coffee date turned into dinner. Dinner turned into weekend hikes around Washington State, and before long we were inseparable. Sarah was everything I had ever wanted in a partner. Smart, compassionate, beautiful, and she laughed at my terrible jokes. Even my parents, who had been skeptical of every woman I had dated before, welcomed her into our family with open arms. Her family treated me the same way. Her father, a retired firefighter, took me fishing and shared stories about raising Sarah. Her mother taught me family recipes and treated me like the son she never had. After 2 years of dating, I proposed during a camping trip to Mount Rainier National Park. I still remember her tears of joy as I knelt beside our campfire stars overhead, promising to love her forever. 6 months later, we were married in a small ceremony with just our closest friends and family. The first years of marriage were everything I had hoped for. We bought our house in a quiet neighborhood with enough space for the children we planned to have. We established routines and traditions that brought us closer. Sunday morning pancakes, Friday night movies, summer road trips exploring the Pacific Northwest, small everyday moments of happiness that I treasured. I worked hard at my job, eventually becoming a senior engineer with a comfortable salary that allowed us to live well. Sarah loved her teaching position at Lakeside Elementary, often bringing home stories about her students that made us both laugh. We talked about starting a family within the next year. Everything seemed perfect. Looking back, I realized the changes started gradually, almost imperceptibly. Sarah began staying late at school more frequently. Teacher meetings, parent conferences, professional development workshops, all reasonable excuses that I never questioned. She started leaving earlier in the mornings too, claiming she needed to prepare her classroom before students arrived. Her appearance began to change as well. New clothes appeared in her closet. More makeup, different hairstyle. When I complimented these changes, she would smile and say she just wanted to look more professional at work. Again, I never questioned it. Then came the password change on her phone. For years, we had known each other's passwords, not because we checked up on each other, but because we shared a level of transparency that felt natural. One day, I picked up her phone to look up a recipe we had saved and realized I could no longer get in. When I asked about it later, she claimed the school had implemented new security policies for staff. It seemed reasonable at the time. Our conversations became shorter, less intimate. The details of her day that she used to share enthusiastically became vague summaries. When I tried to dig deeper, she would claim exhaustion from work. I worried she might be experiencing burnout or depression, but she insisted everything was fine. I convinced myself it was just a phase. Maybe she was going through a midlife crisis or feeling stagnant in her career. I tried to be more attentive, planning small surprises and date nights to reconnect. She seemed appreciative, but still somehow distant, present physically but emotionally elsewhere. Despite these subtle changes, I was excited about our upcoming 8th anniversary. I had been planning a surprise trip to Hawaii for months, something Sarah had always dreamed of, but we had never managed to do. I had booked an oceanfront suite, scheduled sunset cruises, and even arranged for her to swim with dolphins, an experience she had mentioned wanting since childhood. I kept the plans secret, enjoying the anticipation of surprising her. One evening, 3 weeks before our anniversary, Sarah was in the shower when her phone buzzed repeatedly on the kitchen counter. Thinking it might be important, I picked it up, intending to tell her she had messages waiting. That was when I saw the name Jake in preview text that made my blood run cold. "Cannot wait to feel your body against mine again tomorrow." I stood frozen, phone in hand, as my world began to crumble. My hand trembled as I held Sarah's phone, debating whether to unlock it. I knew her new password would stop me, but in that moment I discovered something unexpected. The fingerprint sensor still recognized my thumb, a detail she had overlooked when changing her security. Within seconds, I was scrolling through dozens of messages between my wife and a man named Jake Williams, who I recognized as the new physical education teacher at her school. The messages left nothing to imagination. They had been seeing each other for months, meeting at hotels, exchanging intimate photos, making plans for future encounters. The raw details tore through me like physical blows. But what hurt even more were the words they exchanged about me. Sarah called me boring, predictable, said I was a good provider but passionless. Jake asked if she would ever leave me, and her response was non-committal, eventually maybe. The timing has to be right. I took screenshots and sent them to my own phone, then carefully placed her phone back exactly where it had been. When Sarah emerged from the shower, I somehow managed to act normal, though my insides felt shredded. That night, lying beside the woman who had betrayed me, sleep was impossible. I stared at the ceiling, mentally replaying every moment of our marriage, wondering how I had missed the signs. The next day, I called in sick to work for the first time in years. As soon as Sarah left for school, I began my investigation. I needed to know the full extent of her betrayal before deciding what to do. I checked our shared credit card statements, discovering charges for hotel rooms on days she claimed to be at teaching conferences, expensive restaurant bills for meals I never shared, even charges from jewelry stores and men's clothing retailers for gifts I never received. I accessed the location history on our family sharing account, which Sarah had apparently forgotten about. The data showed regular visits to an upscale hotel downtown on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons, when she claimed to have staff meetings. The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. Still, I wanted irrefutable evidence. I contacted a private investigator recommended by a colleague who had gone through something similar. The investigator was professional and discreet, understanding my need for absolute certainty. For the next week, he followed Sarah on the days she typically met Jake, documenting their encounters with photographs and detailed reports. The evidence confirmed my worst fears. The investigator provided photos of them entering the hotel together, holding hands in the lobby, kissing in the elevator. He even captured audio of them in the hotel restaurant, where they openly discussed their relationship and future plans. The final blow came when I heard Sarah laughing about my anniversary surprise to Hawaii, which she had somehow discovered. "Burke thinks we are going to Hawaii next month. He has been saving and planning for months. Should I feel bad about letting him waste all that money when I am planning to leave him anyway?" The betrayal went beyond the physical affair. She had systematically deceived me while planning to leave me, all while allowing me to invest emotionally and financially in our future. The investigator looked genuinely sorry as he handed over the final report. "In my 15 years doing this job, I have seen hundreds of cheaters, but the calculated nature of this one stands out. I am truly sorry, sir." I learned the affair had been going on for 6 months, beginning shortly after Jake started working at her school. They had been introduced at a staff development day and connected immediately, according to messages I found. What started as innocent text exchanges quickly escalated to secret meetings and hotel rendezvous. More disturbing was discovering that Sarah had been funneling money from our joint savings account into a private account. Nearly $20,000 had disappeared over the past 4 months, money we had been saving for a house renovation and eventually starting a family. When I checked our investment portfolio, I found she had sold some of the stocks we owned jointly, claiming the market was unstable. The proceeds had vanished. My investigation revealed another painful truth. Jake knew intimate details about our marriage, things only a spouse should know. Sarah had shared my personal struggles, family issues, even details about our intimate life. She had violated not just our marriage vows, but the basic privacy and dignity any person deserves from their partner. The most devastating discovery came when I found a draft email to a realtor in Sarah's personal email account. She had been inquiring about listing our house for sale, claiming her husband would be on board with the decision soon. She planned to split the proceeds and move on, even mentioning possibly relocating to California, where Jake had family. Each new revelation felt like another knife to my heart. The woman I had built my life around, the person I trusted most in the world, had not only betrayed me, but had been systematically preparing to discard me and our life together. The methodical nature of her deception suggested this was no impulsive mistake, but a calculated exit strategy. As the full picture emerged, my initial shock and pain crystallized into something else: determination. I would not be the passive victim in this story. Sarah had underestimated me, believing I would either remain oblivious or crumble when the truth emerged. She was wrong on both counts. I began forming a plan of my own. After the initial shock subsided, a strange calm descended over me. I had always been methodical in my professional life, approaching software engineering problems with careful analysis before implementing solutions. Now I would apply that same systematic approach to my personal crisis. This would not be an emotional reaction, but a strategic response. My first step was consulting a lawyer. I met with Angela Frost, a divorce attorney known for her no-nonsense approach. In her sleek downtown office, I laid out everything I had discovered. She listened without interruption, occasionally making notes, her expression professional but sympathetic. "Unfortunately, this type of situation is not uncommon," she said when I finished. "The good news, if we can call it that, is that you have collected substantial evidence. Washington is a no-fault divorce state, so the infidelity itself will not impact the division of assets. However, her misappropriation of joint funds and attempt to hide assets will definitely interest the court." Angela advised me to document everything meticulously and to begin separating my finances without alerting Sarah. "Do not confront her yet," she cautioned. "Once she knows that you know, she will accelerate her plans and possibly destroy evidence. We need to be prepared before that happens." Following her advice, I opened a new bank account at a different bank and began transferring my paychecks there instead of our joint account. I gathered all important financial documents and stored digital copies in a secure cloud account. I documented every piece of evidence of the affair and financial misconduct, creating a comprehensive file that would be irrefutable. I canceled the Hawaii vacation, but kept the confirmation emails as evidence of my good faith in the marriage. Instead, I used the money to pay the retainer for my lawyer and the private investigator. I felt a grim satisfaction knowing that the funds intended for our romantic getaway were now funding my exit strategy. As I prepared logistically, I also had to decide how to confront Sarah. Simply serving her divorce papers seemed too impersonal given the 8 years we had shared. Despite everything, I wanted closure, a chance to look her in the eyes as she realized her deception had failed. I wanted her to understand the consequences of her choices. The idea came to me as I was looking through old photos for our anniversary slideshow, a project I had started before discovering the affair. Our wedding day, smiling with family and friends, holidays together, vacations, ordinary moments of happiness that now felt like artifacts from another life. What better way to confront her than on our anniversary, the day she thought we would be leaving for Hawaii? I decided to create the illusion that nothing had changed. I continued acting normally around Sarah, maintaining our routines while finalizing my preparations. I confirmed with my lawyer that everything was in order. The divorce papers were drawn up ready to be filed the day after our anniversary. My separate living arrangements were secured, a furnished apartment downtown with a 6-month lease. The most difficult part was contacting our families. I could not let them walk into the situation blind, but I also did not want to reveal everything over the phone. I called my parents and Sarah's parents separately, simply asking them to come for our anniversary dinner, suggesting I had planned a special surprise. They were delighted, completely unaware of what was to come. 3 days before our anniversary, I reached out to Jake's wife, Maria. Yes, Jake was married too. Another layer of betrayal I had discovered during my investigation. She deserved to know the truth. We met at a coffee shop far from either of our neighborhoods. She listened in stunned silence as I shared what I knew, providing copies of some of the less explicit messages and photos as proof. "I had suspicions," she finally said, voice breaking. "He has been distant, working late, taking weekend workshops. I even found receipts for gifts I never received. But I convinced myself I was being paranoid." Her pain mirrored my own, another casualty of our spouse's selfishness. Maria agreed to come to the anniversary dinner, Her presence would add an element of justice to the evening, though I understood her participation came from a place of pain rather than vindictiveness. We were both seeking closure and dignity in a situation where we had been denied both. The day of our anniversary arrived crisp and clear. I left for work as usual but returned early to prepare. I transformed our dining room into an elegant space with flowers, candles, and our best dinnerware. I prepared Sarah's favorite meal, roast lamb with rosemary potatoes and asparagus. I chilled her preferred white wine and set out the crystal glasses we had received as wedding gifts. The scene was perfectly romantic. On the sideboard, hidden under a cloth, lay the evidence portfolios. One for Sarah, one for her parents, one for Jake's wife to take home to him. Each contained photographs, text messages, financial records, and timeline documentation. Beside them sat the airline confirmation for Hawaii, now canceled, and the divorce papers ready for filing. Sarah arrived home to find me dressed in a suit, the table set beautifully, soft music playing. Her momentary confusion gave way to a smile that did not quite reach her eyes. "What is all this?" she asked, looking around nervously. "Happy anniversary," I replied calmly. "I thought we should celebrate properly before our trip tomorrow." The lie came easily necessary for my plan. She excused herself to change, no doubt messaging Jake about the unexpected development. When she returned in a blue dress I had given her last Christmas, the doorbell rang. Her eyes widened in confusion as my parents entered bearing gifts and smiles. Before she could process this, her own parents arrived, followed by several close friends I had invited. Last to arrive was Maria, whom I introduced simply as a work colleague. Sarah did not know her, had never seen her. Jake had apparently kept his marriage as secret from Sarah as their affair had been from me and Maria. As everyone gathered in the living room with cocktails and conversation, Sarah pulled me aside. "What is going on? I thought we were having a quiet dinner before leaving tomorrow." Her voice held a note of panic. I smiled reassuringly. "I wanted to surprise you with a proper send-off. All our loved ones gathering to wish us well before our big trip." I raised my glass. "In fact, I would like to make a toast." The room quieted as I stood before our friends and family, Sarah beside me, growing increasingly uncomfortable. I began speaking about love and trust, about the foundations of marriage, and the sacred vows we had exchanged 8 years ago. Sarah's smile became fixed, uncertain. "Marriage is built on honesty," I continued, "on mutual respect and faithfulness. When those elements disappear, what remains is just an empty shell." I turned to look directly at Sarah, whose face had gone pale. "Would you not agree, darling?" That was when I unveiled the evidence portfolios, handing them to their intended recipients. "Before we continue celebrating, I thought everyone should understand exactly what we are commemorating today." The room fell silent as pages were turned, photographs examined, messages read. Sarah stood frozen, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. Her parents looked up in shock and dismay. Maria quietly wept as she confirmed what she had already suspected. My own parents moved to my side, their presence a silent support. "I had planned to surprise you with a trip to Hawaii," I told Sarah, my voice steady despite the turmoil inside me. "Instead, I am surprising you with the truth. You and Jake have been exposed. Your plans to leave me, after draining our accounts, have been stopped. The house you plan to sell is safe. The life you are systematically destroying has been protected not by your care but despite your betrayal." Sarah finally found her voice a mix of anger and desperation. "You went through my private messages. You spied on me. How dare you invade my privacy like that?" The absurdity of her response, focusing on my investigation rather than her betrayal, confirmed I had made the right decision. "Your privacy ended when you violated our marriage," I replied calmly. "Every step I took was to protect myself from further deception. The real question is, how dare you systematically betray the vows we made and the life we built?" She tried changing tactics, tears flowing as she claimed it had been a mistake, that Jake meant nothing, that she had been confused, but had always loved me. Her parents watched in shocked silence as their daughter's true character was revealed. Maria quietly gathered her evidence folder and left her part in this drama complete. She would have her own confrontation with Jake later. As Sarah's excuses and accusations continued, I remained calm. When she finally exhausted herself, I simply handed her the final envelope containing a key to a hotel room I had booked for her. "You can stay here tonight," I said. "Tomorrow, we can discuss the logistics of our separation through our respective attorneys." The guests departed awkwardly, leaving Sarah and me alone in the house we had once shared so happily. "You have until morning to pack your essential belongings," I informed her. "My lawyer will contact yours regarding the rest of your things." As she stood crying in our living room, surrounded by the evidence of her betrayal, I felt a strange sense of peace. The woman I had loved no longer existed if she ever had at all. The person before me was a stranger who had nearly destroyed me. But I had reclaimed my life and my dignity. I had shown her exactly how ruthless I could be, when betrayed not through cruelty but through meticulous justice. The weeks following that dramatic evening were among the most challenging of my life. Despite having prepared myself logistically and legally, nothing could fully prepare me for the emotional aftermath. The house felt cavernously empty without Sarah, haunted by memories both beautiful and painful. Each room held echoes of our life together, making it impossible to escape the constant reminder of what had been lost. Sleep became elusive. I would lie awake, replaying moments from our marriage, questioning whether any of it had been real. Had she ever truly loved me, or had I simply been a convenient stepping stone in her life? The doubt infected even my happiest memories, casting shadows over what I had once considered the best years of my life. Sarah attempted reconciliation several times, showing up at the house, unannounced, calling repeatedly, even having flowers delivered to my office. Each message expressed regret, claimed she had made a terrible mistake, begged for another chance. I maintained my distance, allowing my lawyer to handle all communication. The divorce proceedings moved forward steadily. Her initial attempts to claim half of everything quickly shut down when my attorney presented evidence of her financial misconduct. Jake faced his own consequences. Maria filed for divorce immediately, and the school district opened an investigation into their relationship after rumors began circulating. Both Sarah and Jake were placed on administrative leave, pending review of whether their relationship had violated any professional codes of conduct. The carefully constructed life Sarah had been planning with him unraveled as quickly as our marriage had. As for me, the initial numbness gave way to waves of grief, anger, and eventually exhaustion. I realized I needed help processing everything that had happened. Through a colleague's recommendation, I found a support group for people going through divorce after infidelity. Sitting in that circle of strangers who understood exactly what I was experiencing became my lifeline. Martin, a contractor in his 50s who had discovered his wife's affair after 28 years of marriage, became a particular source of strength. The hardest part, he told me during one session, is not just losing your spouse but losing your past. You question every memory wondering what was real, but at some point you have to accept that your memories belong to you regardless of what was happening on her end. Those words resonated deeply. I could not control what Sarah had done or how she had felt, but I could reclaim my own experience of our marriage. The joy I had felt had been genuine, even if hers had not. That realization marked the beginning of my healing. Gradually, I began rebuilding my life. I threw myself into work, finding solace in the logical, predictable world of software engineering. When a senior colleague mentioned an opportunity to lead a new educational technology initiative, I surprised myself by volunteering. The project involved developing learning applications for underprivileged schools, something that had always interested me but that I had never pursued seriously. Working with teachers and students directly gave me a sense of purpose I had been missing. Their enthusiasm for technology that could transform their learning experience reminded me of Sarah when I first met her. But instead of triggering pain, the memory now felt like a faded photograph, a moment captured in time that no longer held power over my present. The project expanded beyond its initial scope, attracting attention from educational foundations and technology investors. Within 6 months, I was heading a team developing what would eventually become my own educational technology startup. The work consumed me in the best possible way, channeling my energy into creating something meaningful from the ashes of my failed marriage. As my professional life flourished, my personal life slowly began to heal as well. I sold our house, unable to continue living with the ghosts of what had been. The new apartment I purchased downtown felt clean, uncontaminated by lies. I decorated it sparsely at first, unsure of my own tastes after years of compromising with Sarah. Gradually, the space evolved to reflect the person I was becoming, not who I had been. I reconnected with old friends who had fallen by the wayside during my marriage. James and Thomas, college roommates I had once been inseparable from, welcomed me back into their lives without judgment or excessive questions. Weekend hiking trips, basketball games, and simple evenings of conversation helped rebuild my sense of belonging in the world outside my marriage. The divorce was finalized 11 months after our anniversary confrontation. The settlement was fair despite Sarah's initial attempts to claim emotional distress. My meticulous documentation and her clear financial misconduct left her with little leverage. We divided assets according to contribution with the court, recognizing her misappropriation of joint funds. The process was expensive and draining, but ultimately provided the clean break I needed. Exactly 1 year after discovering Sarah's betrayal, I attended a technology education conference in Portland. The irony of returning to an educational conference was not lost on me, given that was how I had met Sarah. But this time I was presenting our new learning platform to potential partners. The presentation went well, generating significant interest from school districts across the Pacific Northwest. During the networking reception afterward, a woman approached with thoughtful questions about implementing the platform in rural schools with limited internet access. Lisa Armstrong was the technology coordinator for a district in Eastern Oregon, passionate about bringing educational opportunities to underserved communities. Her practical insights and genuine enthusiasm for the work impressed me immediately. Our professional conversation extended to dinner, where we discovered shared interests beyond education technology. Unlike the instant chemistry I had felt with Sarah, my connection with Lisa developed gradually, built on mutual respect and shared values, rather than intense emotion. We exchanged contact information with the explicit purpose of professional collaboration, but I found myself looking forward to our video conference calls with unexpected anticipation. Lisa was different from Sarah in countless ways. Direct and straightforward, she said exactly what she meant. When I eventually told her about my divorce, her response was refreshingly honest. "That sounds incredibly painful," she said. "Thank you for trusting me enough to share it." Our professional relationship slowly evolved into friendship and eventually something more. 6 months after meeting, Lisa accepted a position with an educational foundation in Seattle, moving to the city for reasons that were primarily professional, but with the acknowledged benefit of allowing us to explore our connection more directly. Our relationship progressed cautiously on both sides. Lisa had her own past relationship scars, having ended an engagement years earlier when she discovered her fiancé had a gambling addiction he had hidden from her. We both understood the value of transparency and the danger of rushing into emotional entanglement. When I finally felt ready to define our relationship more formally, I approached the conversation with characteristic directness. "I have trust issues," I admitted during a quiet dinner at my apartment. "There are times I might question things or need reassurance in ways that seem excessive." Lisa considered this seriously. "I cannot promise I will never hurt you," she replied, "but I can promise I will never lie to you. Honesty may sometimes be uncomfortable, but it is always better than deception." That promise meant more to me than any passionate declaration of love could have. We agreed to continue building our relationship slowly with clear boundaries and open communication. For the first time since my marriage ended, I found myself genuinely looking forward to the future. The greatest lesson from my experience with Sarah was not about the dangers of trusting others, but about the importance of trusting myself. I had ignored subtle warning signs, dismissed my instincts, and allowed my desire for a perfect marriage to blind me to the reality of my situation. With Lisa, I remained vigilant, without becoming paranoid attentive, without becoming controlling. Looking back on the painful journey from betrayal to recovery, I recognize now that Sarah's affair, while devastating, ultimately freed me from a relationship built on deception. The life I have created since then, both professionally and personally, is more authentic and fulfilling than the illusion I had been living. Have you ever experienced betrayal that ultimately led to positive change in your life? Share your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Sometimes our greatest setbacks become the foundation for our most meaningful growth. Thank you for listening, and remember that even in our darkest moments, we all have the power to reclaim our stories and write new endings.